Alright, so in this lesson we will be looking at subtraction of integers. But before we do that, we have to review the addition of integers. So remember, rule 1 is that if the signs are the same, so if they're both positive or if they're both negative, first you have to add the digits, and then whatever it was, positive or negative, you have to keep the sign. So here's my example. I have a -5 add by -2. So as you can see, they're both negative. So it's going to be rule 1. So I'm going to add the 2 digits. So 5 and 2, that's going to give me 7. And then I have to keep the sign. So I can see that they're both negative. So the answer is just going to be -7. Rule 2 says that if the signs are different, so if I'm adding a positive with a negative or if I'm adding a negative with a positive, first I have to subtract the digits, then take the sign of the larger digit. So here's my example here. I have a -5 add by a +2. So I'm going to subtract the digits, so 5 and 2, I'm just going to subtract them, that's going to give me 3. And then I'm going to look which is the larger digit. Well, 5 here is larger than 2, so what is the sign of 5? The sign of 5 is negative. So my answer is going to be -3. Now let's get into some subtraction. So here I have -5 subtract by -2. So the first step you have to do here is change this subtraction sign right here into an addition. So I'm just going to make that subtraction into an addition. Okay? Step 2, switch the sign of the second digit. So -5, that's the first digit. -2 is the second digit. So I'm going to switch the sign. So if it's a negative, I'm going to make it into a positive. And if it's a positive, I'm going to make it into a negative. So since it was a negative, I made it into a positive. So now I have -5 add by +2. Now I could solve this addition question using the addition rules that we just covered. So that would be rule 2, because I have -5 add by +2. I have a negative and a positive. Rule 2 says if the signs are different, and they are different, subtract the digits. So 5 and 2, that's going to give me 3. And then take the sign of the larger digit. So I have here I have here 5 is bigger than 2. The sign of 5 is negative, so my answer is going to be -3. Okay, now I have here -6 subtract by -16. Again, the first step is to change the subtraction to an addition. So the sign here right in the middle, the subtraction sign, I'm going to change into an addition. So now I have -6 add by -16. Then I'm going to switch the sign of the second digit. This -16, that's the second digit. So I'm going to switch it. It was a negative. I made it into a positive. Then I'm going to solve following the addition rule. So I have now -6 add by +16. Signs are different. I have a negative and I have a positive. Okay, so I'm going to use rule 2. I'm going to subtract the digits, 16 and 6. When I subtract them, that's going to give me a 10. And then take the sign of the larger digit. 16 is larger than 6. So what is the sign of 16? It's positive. So my answer is going to be +10. Okay, so now we're just getting a little bit longer here. And remember that when we have questions like this, we have to go left to right. Okay, so I'm going to take the first 2, and I see it's 5 plus -7. It's a plus now, so I don't have to do any of that fancy changing this guy around or changing this guy around. I'm just going to use the rule 1 or rule 2 of my addition rule. So I see here that this is a +5 and this is a -7. So again, I'm going to use rule 2 because the signs are different. So I'm going to subtract the 2, so 7 and 5. When I subtract that, that's going to give me 2. Take the sign of the larger digit. The larger digit here is 7. So the sign of 7 is negative. So my answer is just going to be -2. Okay? So now I'm going to bring down the subtract by 4. Okay? Now I have a subtraction sign here. So now I'm going to use the rules for subtraction. Again, first step is to change the subtraction to an addition. Okay? Second step is to switch the sign of the second digit. So right now, this is a positive 4 because we don't see any sign here. We don't see any negative sign here. So we're going to assume that this is positive. So since it's positive, I have to switch it. I'm going to now make it into a negative 4. Okay? And then step 3, solve using the addition rule. So again, I have negative 2 add by negative 4. The signs are the same. So now I could use rule 1. So if the signs are the same, add the digits. So now I have 2 and 4. I'm going to add that. That's going to become 6. And then keep the sign. So they're both negative. I'm going to keep it negative. So I'm going to have negative 6 as my answer. So those are my 3 examples for subtraction of integers. If you have any questions, please ask.